thank you for being here. Today we are talking about 3 steps to letting go of what isn't serving you. We've talked about how to embrace new habits, to figure out what success looks like, to go after our goals. But what about that mental aspect of other people's opinions and disappointments and expectations, and especially our own for each one of those categories? But the first thing we're going to talk about is opinions. There's opinions about you that other people have. There's opinions you have about yourself, some of them helpful and some of them not. All of them created in our own mind or in the minds of others, which, to be honest, happens all the time. People think things about us. People probably think you aren't doing well enough, or are doing too much, or aren't really that interesting or that funny or that special. And sometimes people will let you know that that is exactly what they think, or they'll let other people know that that's what they think about you, and then you somehow, someday, end up hearing about it. Now, opinions of others aren't paying your bills, they're not making you better, they're not achieving your goals, and therefore they should be given just as much value as those things. Those things that aren't helping you shouldn't get as much of your time or attention. And now I know what you're thinking, but other people thinking that I'm not good at my job, what if that is true? What if what they're saying is accurate? What if I am unaware of things and I should be asking better questions? At the end of the day, the wisdom of the crowd exists. What a lot of people are saying, what a lot of people are not saying, can have value and it can not have value. Just because a lot of people are saying something doesn't mean it's what we should be doing. Just because a lot of people are doing something doesn't mean we should be doing it. But it also doesn't mean that that's completely irrelevant and inexcusable and unnecessary. Sometimes what people say does have value, yet other times it doesn't. So how can we determine if it is valuable? Well, what is it that they're saying? If somebody is saying that this thing that you're doing is awful and unhelpful, and other people are saying that you're doing a good job and that you're doing well, these two things are probably not able to coexist. There might be some things you're not good at, there might be some things that you are good at, but you have to be good at figuring out what characteristics your day-to-day has. Are you putting in the work? Are you putting in the effort? Are there things that you do have to learn and maybe you can admit to? Hey, I don't know how to do this. I'm trying to figure it out. If you have feedback that can be used to help me, I will use it. If you are just going to tell me that I'm doing a bad job, that's actually not helpful. And these are some of the things that you can express to other people. They're telling you that you're doing a bad job, that you're not meeting expectations. Ask them to identify what those expectations are. If they are not able to do that, if they're just like, well, just do better, it's not helpful, and that advice and that feedback isn't getting you anywhere. And continuing to think about it and continuing to give any value or weight to what they're saying isn't gonna help you. At the end of the day, we have to decide what value other people's opinions have. Is your boss thinking that you're good at your job a valuable opinion? Yes. Is your parents thinking that you're doing well and achieving good things in your life an important opinion? Potentially. What matters at the end of the day is your opinion of yourself, and the only one who can figure out what that opinion is you. Are you mad at these people when they say these things, or upset when they say it because you agree with them? Because there's a part of you that understands that there may be some reality or truth to what they're saying? If what they're saying is just blatantly incorrect, then it shouldn't bother you as much because you know what the truth is. If somebody tells you that your skin is blue and you know that that isn't true, them saying that isn't going to hurt you as much because you know that that's not a true statement. But you might not know if you're doing a good or a bad job. But if you are achieving your deadlines, if you are asking questions, if you are engaging with people as much as you can and trying to learn, you are doing what you can. And opinions of other people can only mean so much, but they can affect you if you let them. Opinions that other people have about what we should or shouldn't be doing with our own lives only matter so much because you have to pay the bills of the consequences of your choices. You are the one that has to pay in full the consequences of any decision that you make. If you're going to move in with your partner, if you're going to buy a house, you are the one that has to deal with the consequences associated with that. Consequences aren't necessarily good or bad, but they are yours to deal with. At the end of the day, the opinions of others can mean as much as we allow them to mean. We can give them as much power as we are choosing to do so. Power is a great responsibility, and we have a lot of it over our own lives. And when we take into consider other people's opinion, we hand our power away. And sometimes that seems like a fun place to be because we don't want to take responsibility that we haven't worked out in 6 months, that we have been eating out more times a week than we would want to. We would rather think that the opinions of other people do matter because then what we do on a day-to-day hurts less because it's other people's fault. You're the victim. You get to hand your power away and therefore your responsibility. If you're not responsible for something, what happens to it doesn't affect you as much. If you're not responsible for taking care of that dog of your neighbor, whether the dog's howling and getting enough food or enough water isn't your responsibility, so you're probably not going to be preoccupied with it. But if we aren't taking responsibility over our own life, what are we doing with our time? If we're allowing other people to influence us and to tell us what to do and to live and die by what they say, what are we doing with this one life that we get? These are all opinions of people who've only lived life as much as they have so far. Nobody has lived this life multiple times and knows the exact right way to do things. Their opinion of what you should be doing is based off of their one time living this life. If somebody has married the same person multiple times and tells you should just never get divorced, that's their opinion based off of, well, more or less nothing. That's what they've lived through, that's what they've experienced, and they think it has validity because it's their lived experience, and in some ways it does, but it doesn't have to for you unless you give it that power. So opinions are going to come and go. The opinions of people you respect and that you value should be ones that you look towards. If your boss thinks you're doing a good job and random people at work think you're just awful at your job, maybe those other opinions don't matter as much and you shouldn't give them as much time. What do you think of yourself? How are you figuring things out? How are you asking questions? Maybe there's ways that you can work on it, and maybe there's other things that you can do. But if you're working on yourself, if you're trying to figure it out, if you're constantly moving in a direction that you're trying to help yourself and the company and your family and your friends, then you're doing what you can, and that's really all that you can. So, take their opinions with a grain of salt. They've only lived this life as long as they have. They don't have any more insight into what should be done or what shouldn't, or what will bring you long-term happiness. You actually are the only one that has a grand insight into what makes you happy. Do you like going for a run? Do you like reading? How are you prioritizing those things? If somebody's opinion is affecting you, look into it. Why does this specific comment affect me? It will do you a great deal of good to figure out why you are reacting a certain way. It doesn't matter what other people do, it matters how you react to it because it's what you can control. You can't control what other people think of you as much as you'd like to. You can be as nice and as sweet as you want. Some people are just not gonna like you. So their opinions are always going to stay the same no matter what information has changed. There's no interest of them in them to figure out why you think this way you do or why you're doing things the way that you're doing. That's your job. Figure out why you're doing what you're doing and then change it accordingly. But don't change it because somebody told you you should. Do it because you've reflected, because you've understood that, well, the life I want to live indicates that I should be running more and drinking more water. Do those things. The opinions of other people, just let them be, because at the end of the day, they're doing what they can. Disappointments are gonna happen. There are going to be things that disappoint us. There are going to be things that we try and we fail and we disappoint ourselves and others, and we end up in this place where, man, I really tried hard to open that bakery and I just couldn't figure it out. I could not get my bread to rise the way that it should, and people did not want to buy my cookies. There are going to be things that actually disappoint you and that are going to be legitimate failures. If your business opens and then closes without it being your desire to close it and move on to something else, it closed because you couldn't handle the amount of work that had to go with it, you couldn't figure out the finances, that's okay. Disappointments happen. There are things that we work on and we put all this time into and it still fails. Marriages fail, relationships fail. Our jobs end up letting us go, whether they have a good reason or not. Maybe the company's just downsizing. There are things that are going to disappoint us, but we are not disappointments in and of itself. Things can be disappointing, but we are not disappointments. We do not have to embody that place forever. We don't have to stand down and say, you know what, I am a disappointment. It was disappointing that I got divorced. It was sad. It was awful. What you can see it as is this thing that happened, but it doesn't define you. You are not the culmination of your greatest and worst moments. You are much more than that. You are much greater than what has happened to you and what hasn't. You are not defined by any of these things unless you allow yourself to be defined that way. If other people around you are getting married and having children, but that isn't what you want, you are not a disappointment. Even if other people are saying things like that. If your parents are disappointed in you because of certain decisions, if your boss is disappointed, things can change. You can start doing things better or in a different way. You can learn and you can move on. You're going to fail, you're going to mess up, you're gonna disappoint yourself and others, but that does not have to be your entire embodiment of who you are. You can actually move on and you can actually decide what's going to happen next. At the end of the day, what we do with what we have is all that we can do. I don't know where life is going next. I don't know what lesson is right around the corner. I don't know what opportunity. All I do know is that I am much more than all of these things that have happened or are going to happen to me. My best moments, my worst moments are not who I am. I am a lot more than that, and so are you. And we have to accept that, and we have to move forward with this understanding that things will not go the way that we want, and we will be sad about it, and we will be hurt by it in some ways, but we have to move forward. We have to let go of what was and what wasn't and decide that we are going to be more than what other people have thought of us and have not thought of us. We are greater than the culmination of what was and what wasn't and what will be and what won't be. Some things will just not be your reality. Some things will be more. And if I was to go back a year ago when I got let go for the second time and I was moving to a state and I didn't know anyone, to a place that I had only been a few times, I could have been really disappointed in certain things, or I could have been really excited. And I chose to be excited as much as I possibly could, because the way my life is right now, it's continuing to get better and grow, and I'm learning, and there's still hardships and there's still difficult things that I have to deal with. But who I am now versus who I was a year ago is much greater. And it was because I chose to keep getting up and to keep going. When I first got let go, I had no idea what my life was going to look like. I didn't know that I was going to move. I didn't know that I was going to meet certain people, that I was going to be changed by different realities. All I knew was this thing that I had known for so long, This thing that I had identified with was gone, and I had to rebuild my identity from what I thought was scratch. But then I looked and I was like, there are so many things that I've been disappointed by, that I overcame, that I grew from. This thing is just going to be one of them. And I rebuilt my view of myself on this idea that I am not the best and the worst thing that has happened to me. I am actually greater than all of it. I am this person who is willing to move forward, who is excited, who is going to figure it out. If I'm going to identify with anything, I'm going to identify with this idea that I'm going to figure it out. I don't know what life's going to look like, but I'm going to put one foot in front of the other and see where it gets me. I'm going to be deliberate. I'm going to choose. And I'm going to probably have to choose again, and some choices aren't going to be great. And there's so many things that have happened since then. And there's a reason why we have a vision and we don't have the path to get there, because if we saw what we would have to go through to get to where we wanted to be, we probably wouldn't want to do it. But we are strong enough, we are capable enough, we are going to move through it if we give ourselves the space and the time and the dedication to do so. Move through these disappointments, move through these failures, move through the grief, and keep going. I don't know what life is going to look like in a year from now, or 2 years, or 10 years. I do hope that I can look back and realize why everything happened the way that it did. Even a few months ago, if I was to go back in time and tell myself it'll all work out, it would be helpful. But at the heart of it, I always knew that it would work out. There was this moment, maybe like 5 months ago, where I was walking through one of the hotels I was staying in for work, and I had this feeling that I was back in that moment where I had no idea what was going on. And it was a moment where I was like, I just wish I could know what's going to happen to make this feel better. And in that moment, I was like, I don't know, maybe like if I know what's gonna happen, I'll be all right. I just didn't know what I needed in that moment. And then I flashed forward to me walking through this parking lot, and I was like, nothing. All I needed back then was nothing. I needed exactly what was happening to get to where I am right now. And I wouldn't go back and change anything or tell myself what was going to happen next, because I had to grow and to solidify my belief in myself before any of this could come along. And now when my belief in myself does get shaken, I look back at that time and I'm like, but you literally had no idea what was going to happen next. You didn't know where you were going to live, where you were going to work, who you were going to hang out with, who you were going to meet. And you kept going. So this moment where this person at work is giving you a hard time, you can get through it, because there was a lot harder times that you walked through. And it'll just be inspiration for you along the road. So your disappointments should be this thing that inspires you to move on, not things that define you to stay where you are. The last thing we're going to talk about is expectations. We all have expectations of what life should be or what it shouldn't be and what we hope for it to become. But expectations can hurt us if they're not set high enough. If I got everything I expected or wanted a year ago, I would not live the life that I have now. It can be so much better than any of your expectations. It can be so much greater than what your parents have expected for you or what other people think is possible for you. Because the depth of what you can achieve is greater than any of these small things if you allow it to be. If you're working towards a certain goal and you're putting in effort day in and day out, your expectation is that you're going to achieve it. But what you can get out of it could be so much more if you let it be that. Of course, we should expect certain things, but when it doesn't happen, it doesn't mean that what we were doing or what we want is wrong. We can keep moving forward and we can keep going. Your parents are going to have expectations of you, your bosses, your friends, your family, your partner. They're all going to have expectations of how you should behave and act and how you should move through the world. And if they're paying you, you're going to have to take those into consideration. But past that, what other people expect of you isn't really how you should run your life, because they got their own chance. Your parents had the chance to live their own life, and if they've gone through hardships, there were still ways that they chose to live the life that they want. And it's your chance now to live the life that you want. Because one day we're gonna wake up and we're not going to be this age anymore. We're gonna be older and we're gonna have regrets. Let it be smaller every single day, because you're choosing to show up for you. That you're letting go of whatever societal expectations you think you need to abide by. You don't need to get married at a certain point, or have kids at a certain point, or live with a partner, or live in a certain location, or be at a certain job, or be at a certain level at a certain age. These are all expectations created by people who, like we've said, are living this life for the first time. Maybe somebody did achieve being vice president at the age of 33. Maybe that's not your story. There's other things that you're interested in. There's other things that you want, and they're all valid and they're all important, but you have to decide that importance. Let other people's expectations of what you should be or shouldn't be go, because who you are matters so much more than these small things that all these people are coming up with. Who you are is going to matter so much more in the end than what all these other people expected you to be. You know who you are, you know who you've been, you know where you want to go, and follow that. Make that the expectation that you want to achieve. And when you outgrow it, when you outpace it, be proud of who you are. Let go of what you think life is supposed to be and embrace what it is. And keep working towards what you want it to be. Move forward and move on. At the end of the day, everyone is doing their best and they're living the life that they want. Your friend that is in a shitty relationship with that awful guy, your parents still living in the same place they've always lived, these are the lives that they've chosen for themselves. Hope that you can look back and say that you've chosen every single part of your life too, and that nobody has told you that you should do something, and that you have just listened. Enjoy this life, go after it, and keep moving on. Whatever happened, whatever didn't, it's all on the schedule it's supposed to. There's no timeline that you need to achieve. There's only your greatest good that you're trying to create. So keep going. Let go of all the things that people have told you you need to be. I hope you have an amazing week. We're going to continue this journey right to the very end, and I will see you very soon.